I really need to know what happens when you take couples whose marriages are like currently being held together by just sheer unfiltered delusion and you drop them into a freezing British rock quarry.
Oh my God, right? With literally nothing but a portable toilet.
And a whole lot of resentment. Like, welcome to the ultimate relationship stress test. I need you all to know that if it weren't for the absolute unhinged garbage fire of reality television currently gracing our screens, I genuinely do not think my sanity would have survived this week.
It is the sociological glue holding our fragile psyches together, my friend. Truly. Like when the real world gets to be way too much, you just have to look at someone else's catastrophic life choices and think, well, at least my coping mechanism doesn't involve dragging plastic plumbing up a muddy mountain in a onesie.
Literally. That is the exact bar we are setting today. But first, babes, welcome back. We love you. We see you. And babes, before we get into today's relationship chaos, we have a little announcement.
Yes, we do. So, brace yourselves, Snark Squad. After this recording, we're actually taking a little 10-day break.
Do not panic. Stay with us, Snark Squad. We promise we'll be back. Like, before you even realize we're gone.
We are going to miss everyone so much.
So much. It physically pains me to step away from the mic, but, we'll try to check in on the socials if possible.
Oh, totally. And we will explain absolutely everything when we return, and I promise you, babes, it'll all make sense. It's nothing bad, just, life doing its chaotic little dance.
Yeah, we just want to thank everyone for always showing up week after week and just supporting this absolute mess of a show we do.
We love you guys. But honestly, this break is coming at the exact right time because, our work weeks have been nothing short of terrifying.
Terrifying is the word. The dental clinics have been an absolute war zone lately.
A literal war zone. Like the moon must be full or the collective nervous system of our city is just totally fried because the patients have been feral.
Completely feral. Though I will say, I did have one high point that grounded me today.
But please share because I need some positivity.
Okay, so I had this sweet, tiny, 85-year-old patient come in for a denture adjustment, and she brought me a Tupperware of homemade baklava.
Stop, that is so cute.
I know, and she held my hand and she told me I had kind eyes for someone who causes pain.
Oh my God.
Right. It's a wildly backhanded compliment, but the baklava was incredible, and it just reminded me that, beneath the clinical stress, there's a real human connection.
See, you are always romanticizing the trauma.
I can't help it. I'm a romantic.
I know you are, bestie. But my low point was less about human connection and more about a complete breakdown of adult emotional regulation.
Oh, no. What happened?
Okay, I had a grown man, right? A 45-year-old corporate executive screaming during a routine cleaning because the water from the ultrasonic scaler was too misty.
Wait, too misty? What does that even mean?
Too misty. I had to stand there holding a tiny suction tube, watching a man who likely manages a massive stock portfolio completely regrets to a toddler state over atomized water.
The psychological fragility of the modern executive, which is exactly why the funniest thing happened today in our break room, actually.
Okay, what happened?
So my assistant accidentally knocked over the model teeth display, and a giant pair of plastic molars just went skittering across the floor.
No way!
Yes, and three of us were just chasing them like loose gerbils. It was so chaotic. But, even with the mist-hating executives and the runaway teeth, I still love it. I really love fixing smiles.
Yeah, I totally get that.
There is just something profoundly satisfying about taking something broken and restoring its foundation,
There really is. Like when you do a perfect composite restoration where you rebuild a chipped tooth so it blends seamlessly. That is art.
Pure art.
But the stress definitely compromised our own foundations today because we both experienced the ultimate universal fail.
Ugh, do not remind me. The dropped phones.
The dropped phones. We both dropped our phones today.
On the exact same day.
Yeah.
In two completely different clinics. It's like we're psychically linked by clumsiness.
I definitely dropped mine first, though. It was like 10 in the morning.
Yeah.
Slipped right out of my scrub pocket onto the linoleum.
And that sound, that horrifying smack, you get that immediate mini heart attack.
Oh, your stomach drops right into your shoes, time slows down, and you just stare at it lying face down.
And you have that moment before you flip it over where you are literally bargaining with the universe. Because phones are basically the price of a used Honda Civic now.
Literally thousands of dollars of glass.
And the human brain is so utterly irrational in that split second. You flip it over, see the crack, and you just stare at it.
Right. Like if I observe this spider web of shattered glass long enough, The glass will somehow organically knit itself back together.
We look at it hoping it operates like skin healing. It makes zero sense. But honestly, looking at the cracks on my screen, I started thinking about the mechanics of that delusion.
Oh, here comes the deep thought. I'm ready.
Hear me out. When you drop your phone, you stare at it, hoping the glass knits itself back together. You buy a thicker case to hide the damage instead of paying to fix the screen. And that is exactly what we are watching happen on reality TV right now.
Well, okay, I see where you're going.
Right. These couples are staring at fundamentally shattered foundations, hoping that if they ignore the cracks long enough, or slap a metaphorical phone case over it, like a vacation or a distraction, the marriage will magically fuse back into a solid piece.
That is actually a phenomenal parallel, babe. They're putting a rhinestone case over a shattered motherboard and wondering why the apps won't load. Like, your phone case is doing more heavy lifting than most of the husbands on this show.
Literally. Which brings me to our shared 14-year-old niece, who, ironically, might have a better grasp on foundations than these grown adults.
Oh my gosh, yes. Snark Squad. She is currently in a phase where she is intensely obsessed with dentistry.
It is an absolute interrogation every time we see her.
Every single time. She'll ask, like, what's the difference between a subgingival scaling, where you have to scrape the bacteria out from deep under the gums, and a root planing?
And I'm looking at her like, kid, you're 14, go listen to pop music and worry about your locker combination.
Exactly. But I think it's adorable. Honestly, it's so refreshing to see someone genuinely hyped about the profession when we are just, like, completely exhausted by it.
It really is. I mean, knowing what you know now, what advice would you even give your younger self before starting dental school?
Oh, buy better shoes. Seriously. Invest in a chiropractor early.
Good advice. So true.
And psychologically prepare yourself for the fact that people will lie right to your face about their habits. Like, their gums are bleeding, they look like they chew gravel, and they'll look you dead in the eye and say, I floss twice a day.
The flossing lies.
People lie when they feel judged, and that doesn't just apply to dentistry, let me tell you.
Oh, the lies. Speaking of unhinged things, the funniest thing she asked me recently was incredibly specific.
What did she say?
She texted me at like 9 p.m. on a Tuesday and asked if someone bites a zombie, do they get infected through the periodontal ligament, you know, the tissue that holds the tooth in this socket, or does it have to reach the inner pulp to infect the bloodstream?
She is a deeply weird kid, but we love her so much.
You really do.
She might actually be the only teenager on planet Earth who gets hyped about plaque vectors in a zombie apocalypse.
We do love her. And to cope with the drop phones, the mist-hating patients, and the zombie hypotheticals, I am currently fueling this recording with a fresh mango smoothie. And my friend, I am feeling unbelievably delusionally healthy right now.
It is purely psychological. You've consumed one blended fruit beverage, and suddenly you think you are Gwyneth Paltrow.
Let me have this. Mango belongs in absolutely everything. Salads, salsas, drinks, desserts. My order is elite, okay? Mango, pineapple, a little bit of coconut water, and a massive handful of spinach, so it turns this muddy, swampy green color.
That sounds foul, I'm not gonna lie.
It visually makes me feel superior to everyone around me.
The unearned superiority is palpable right now. Does drinking one green swamp smoothie legally make us wellness influencers now? Like, should we be doing 5 a.m. ice plunges?
Yes, we are fully embracing hot girl delusion this summer. Confidence comes first, the six-pack can catch up later, or never. Like, the delusion itself is the actual wellness.
Okay, I love that for you.
I am setting the most unrealistic goals. I am going to drink a gallon of water a day, completely eliminate sugar, and meditate for an hour every morning while watching the sunrise.
Babe, you literally hit snooze 4 times this morning and ate gummy bears in the car.
The delusion is a protective barrier. But babes, enough about our own therapy sessions. Let's head to Last Resort, where these couples are somehow making our lives feel incredibly peaceful.
Because whatever is happening at this British castle is an absolute masterclass in how to systematically dismantle a relationship.
Seriously, let's unpack the psychology of this bar brawl aftermath, because things went from 0 to 100 in seconds.
Setting the psychological stage here, we left off with this explosive fight outside the bar. Thaís calls Shekinah a high school bitch.
Which, rude, but okay.
Right. And Shekinah retaliates with the comment that literally broke the internet. She says, go back to your country, you suck.
And immediately you see the entire social dynamic of the cast just shatter. Like, the uproar was instantaneous.
Because you have a microcosm here, a cast made up almost entirely of immigrants or Americans married to immigrants. So when someone lobs an insult like that, it stops being a personal argument between two women, and it instantly becomes this attack on the foundational identity of the entire group.
Yes, Guillermo instantly steps up. He is furious. He's defending Thaís, confronting Shekinah, and suddenly Sarper is stepping in.
Yeah.
And Guillermo and Sarper are chest to chest, screaming at each other. It was terrifyingly close to becoming fully physical.
And Sarper, in a moment of pure panicked adrenaline, drops the most unhinged line in television history.
I was waiting for you to bring this up.
He literally looks at Guillermo and screams, "Eat his penis."
I had to rewind. I was sitting on my couch thinking, wait, eat whose penis? What does that even mean in the context of a territorial dispute?
It represents a total short-circuiting of the brain under stress. Like, the logic is entirely absent. He's trying to assert dominance, but his fight-or-flight response has completely overridden his vocabulary.
It was so bizarre.
But while they're screaming anatomical nonsense, let's look at the collateral damage here.
Yeah.
You have Cara, Guillermo's wife, left standing outside the bar completely sobbing. She's totally humiliated by her husband getting into a screaming match in public.
I felt so terrible for Cara in that moment, and for Thaís, like the emotions were just running so high. But I have to say, I noticed something deeply disturbing about Patrick in this scene.
Okay, what did you see?
Instead of trying to calm Thaís down or remove her from the situation, he seemed weirdly hyped about it. It almost looked like he was hyping her up like a boxing coach.
You are hitting on something crucial there. If you look at it analytically, Patrick was totally stirring the pot. He was instigating this fight instead of de-escalating. He came outside, got the information about what was said, and intentionally amped the situation up.
Which is such a massive contradiction, because remember a few seasons ago when he literally called the cops on Thaís for being aggressive, and now he's out here praising her for getting in a screaming match and nearly starting a brawl? Like, why the sudden shift?
It's deflection. It is the classic sunk cost fallacy mixed with deflection. Patrick and Thaís' marriage is on rocky ground. If he focuses all his energy on hyping up Thaís to fight an external enemy, which is Shekinah, then he doesn't have to address his own marital issues.
Oh my God, you're so right.
He becomes her ally in war, which artificially bonds them. Even Sarper called him out on this during the after show. Sarper used a very crude term calling Patrick a vaginaholic, essentially arguing that Patrick will blindly defend his wife's toxic behavior just to stay out of the doghouse.
Wow. Just wow.
Right. Patrick doesn't care about the morals of the situation. He just wants to secure his own comfort at home.
That is such a fascinating way to look at it. He's outsourcing their marital bonding to a public conflict. But we have to address the actual catalyst of the conflict, which is Shekinah's xenophobic comment.
We do. And looking at this impartially, just as a sociological event, Shekinah tells Thaís, a Brazilian immigrant, to go back to her country. The cast, specifically Guillermo and later Jenny and Sumit, are outraged.
And the internet forums completely exploded with backlash, labeling the comment as xenophobic. I mean, the Reddit threads were on fire.
Exactly. But the fascinating part to me wasn't just the comment itself, but the psychological gymnastics Shekinah performs the next day during her apology tour.
Or rather, her justification tour. Because an apology requires taking accountability, and she completely bypasses that.
Exactly. She pulls Jenny and Sumit aside during a hike, and she attempts to rewrite the narrative. Her dissent was basically, I didn't mean go back to Brazil. I just meant go back to where you came from, because she was acting unpredictable, and I wanted her away from me.
And then she drops the absolute classic defense mechanism. She says, I can't be xenophobic because my husband is an immigrant and my daughter's dad is an immigrant.
Which brings us to a major sociological fallacy, right?
Yeah.
Proximity does not equal immunity. Let's break the mechanics of that down. Having immigrants in your life, or being married to one, does not automatically shield your brain from harboring or your mouth from expressing xenophobic sentiments.
Right. It's just an excuse.
It's a cognitive shield. It's a defense mechanism used to deflect criticism without having to endure the painful cognitive dissonance of examining the actual impact of the words you said.
It's like she's saying, look at my resume, I'm cleared of all charges. But Jenny, in a surprising twist, actually breaks through that shield. Jenny steps in and explains the gravity of the phrase to Shekinah.
Yeah, that was a huge moment.
Jenny reveals that Sumit's mother used to say that exact phrase to her in India, telling her to go back to America. And only then does Shekinah seem to grasp the weight of it.
And the power dynamics there are so telling. The cast's reaction highlights a core sociological trigger. Notice who Shekinah listens to. She completely shut down Guillermo, who is an immigrant himself, when he tried to tell her it was offensive the night before.
Oh, that's such a good point.
But when Jenny, an older American woman, explains how hurtful it is, suddenly Shekinah is willing to validate the feeling.
It speaks volumes about whose feelings she views as legitimate. But the sheer audacity of Shekinah then pivoting to complain to Jenny and submit that nobody asked if she was okay after the fight. I was floored.
It is peak victim mentality. You hurled a deeply offensive insult, caused a near-physical brawl, alienated the entire cast, and you're upset no one brought you a warm blanket and a cup of tea.
Submit was incredibly blunt. He just looked at her and laid out the reality. He basically said, "You are the villain now."
I loved Submit for that. Just cutting through the delusion with pure fact. But this idea of using external circumstances to mask internal rot brings us straight to Cara and Guillermo's emotional whiplash. My heart was in my throat for them this episode.
I know, because I was fully swooning during the first half of their day.
I know you were.
I was, because they actually have a really productive therapy session. They are meditating, they are maintaining eye contact, they are connecting. Then they go to the bar with Rebecca, Zed, and Paola.
And the group starts chanting.
Yes, the group starts chanting, kiss, 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 kind of peer pressuring them. And they do it. They share this incredibly passionate kiss. And Cara looks at the camera and says it feels like old times. It was easy. I was sitting there thinking, yes, the foundation isn't totally shattered. The spark is still there.
And then the reality check hits.
Hard.
So hard. They go back to the hotel room. Cara is feeling the momentum. She tries to initiate some intimacy, take things to the bedroom, and Guillermo shuts it down. Ice cold.
Literally just turns away. He literally says goodnight, turns over, and drops a bomb. He says he regrets the kiss.
Brutal. And what is the root issue he cites for this rejection?
Her OnlyFans account. He confesses that the kiss brought back all these good feelings, but it doesn't erase the fact that she sells explicit content online. He claims it's this massive, immovable roadblock for him.
It's so intense.
I was just heartbroken for Cara. I truly believe that if they could just find a compromise on her career, they could bridge this gap. You can see the love is still there under all that resentment.
I see your point, but I have to completely dismantle that romantic notion. I am looking at this through the lens of attachment theory and control. I don't think the love is there in the way you think it is, bestie.
What? Why?
I think Guillermo is already checked out of this marriage, and he is weaponizing her career to ensure he doesn't look like the bad guy.
You really think the side hustle is just a scapegoat?
I do. The internet consensus is actually spot on here. He is acting like a single man who already has a backup plan. I think he's using the online content as a morally unassailable excuse to maintain distance and control.
Wow.
Think about the mechanics of it. If he continually points to the content she sells as the problem, he never has to take accountability for his own emotional withdrawal. She becomes the one who ruined the marriage. He gets to withhold intimacy to punish her, all while keeping the moral high ground.
That is incredibly dark. So you're saying, going back to our cracked phone metaphor, he doesn't want the screen fixed. He likes the crack because it gives him an excuse to eventually throw the phone away and upgrade.
Precisely. The crack is his exit strategy.
That makes me so sad. But it logically tracks with how cold he was. And this dynamic of using external excuses to manipulate a partner's reaction perfectly mirrors what is happening with Paola and Russ.
Oh, this was agonizing to watch. Paola confronts Russ and claims that Guillermo was staring at her, specifically at her chest, at the bar.
And I need us to deeply examine Russ's reaction, or rather, his absolute maddening lack of a reaction.
It was infuriating.
He admits he noticed the weird staring. He saw another man overtly ogling his wife, and he did absolutely nothing. He just tells Paola, "Oh, I thought he just felt a connection to you because you both speak Spanish."
A Spanish connection. That is the most pathetic, biologically illogical excuse for not defending your spouse I have ever heard.
Russ has completely internalized the role of a doormat. It's been 2 years of this emotional limbo for them, and he is just letting people walk all over his marriage. I kept hoping Russ would eventually stand his ground, find that primal spark, and fight for her honor.
Let's look at the psychology of why Paola even brought it up.
Yeah.
I don't think she was actually offended by Guillermo staring. I think Paola is deliberately trying to provoke a jealous, masculine alpha reaction out of Russ.
Oh, she definitely wants him to get mad.
She is deeply insecure about his lack of passion, so she is testing his masculinity. She wants Russ to mark his territory, to show some semblance of a pulse. But Russ is so beaten down by years of her constant complaints and dominating personality that his nervous system defaults to a freeze response. He gives zero reaction to avoid conflict.
It is a vicious, toxic cycle. She pushes a boundary to get an emotional reaction, his nervous system shuts down, and he withdraws to avoid conflict. She gets furious that he withdrew, and the cycle starts again. They are stuck in an infinite loop of resentment.
Exactly. And the therapists on the show clearly recognized that sitting on couches wasn't breaking these loops. The couples were too comfortable in their dysfunction. So they decide to drop a nuclear psychological bomb on the retreat. Welcome to wilderness therapy.
This was arguably the greatest sociological experiment on reality TV. They take these high-maintenance reality stars, strip away their luxury castle life, take away their phones and heated blankets, and drop them into a freezing, windy, wet rock quarry in the British countryside.
And they bring in Nick Goldsmith, a former Royal Marine Commando, to run the exercise.
The psychology of the gear selection alone was fascinating. They had a pile of specialty items to choose from, but they could only take a few. Bread, wet wipes, a power bank.
And a personal portable toilet,
Yeah.
which Paola immediately claimed as essential survival gear. I watched this woman literally drag a plastic toilet up a mountain while wearing a thin onesie.
Don't forget the vibrator with lube, which thankfully nobody picked. But Shekinah, I was crying laughing. Shekinah demanded to bring her makeup bag and her red LED light therapy mask into the woods for survival.
It is the pinnacle of absurdity. But it also shows how deeply attached they are to their curated identities. When you strip away the filters, the makeup, and the luxury, who are these people? Watching them try to survive a British quarry was hilarious, but also highly revealing.
I was actually romantically hoping that the harsh elements would force them to bond. You know, that primal need for warmth and shelter would force them to rely on each other, breaking down the ego walls.
Oh, my sweet, hopeful friend. No. Let's refer to Maslow's hierarchy of needs. When you cannot secure your basic physiological needs, like warmth, dry clothing, and a place to use the bathroom, you cannot engage in high-level emotional connection or self-actualization.
That's probably true.
The elements didn't break down their egos, it just eroded their patience. Let's examine the 3 teams they were split into to navigate to base camp.
Team 1 was pure, unadulterated chaos. Shekinah, Sarper, Russ, and Paola. Russ was put in charge of the map, and he completely failed.
Total failure.
He has no spatial awareness. They were walking into thorn bushes. And you have Paola freezing in this ridiculous onesie, clutching her portable toilet, absolutely screaming at Russ.
Russ has no sense of direction, literally in the woods or metaphorically in his marriage. He's adrift. Then you have Team 2, the high-tension group. Cara, Guillermo, Patrick, and Thaís.
This group dynamic was so awkward because it's the morning right after the massive bar fight between Guillermo and Patrick's wife, Thaís. Patrick, trying to play the supportive husband, attempts to smooth things over by praising Thaís for being tough and resilient.
Which is so fake.
Right. But Thaís is miserable, and she is complaining nonstop about the harsh environment, and suddenly Patrick starts clashing intensely with her because he fundamentally hates complaining.
It perfectly exposes Patrick's hypocrisy. He wants the aesthetic of a tough girl who will fight someone in a bar for him, but he lacks the emotional bandwidth to handle that same tough girl when she is actually miserable and vocalizing her discomfort.
He just wants her to shut up and hype.
He wants a prop, not a partner experiencing distress. And then we have the absolute tragedy of Team 3. Jenny, Sumit, Rebecca, and Zeed.
The physical exhaustion just destroys them on a cellular level. Zeed completely shuts down emotionally. He stops talking entirely. And that silence triggers Rebecca's intense insecurities.
Of course it does.
She feels abandoned, so she starts pushing him, telling him to act like a real husband and lead them.
Which is the absolute worst psychological trigger you can pull on a man whose ego is already deeply bruised because he is failing at a physical provider-esque task. Zeid is in a classic nervous system freeze response, and Rebecca is poking the bear.
Just poking it with a stick.
And while that micro-tragedy is unfolding, Sumit decides this is the perfect moment to drop an absolute bombshell on Jenny.
Yes! They are walking through the freezing mud, talking about their living situation in India, and Sumit casually reveals that they are financially trapped living with his parents.
In the mud.
He had been keeping this a secret from Jenny. She thought they were living there purely out of cultural obligation to his family, but he admits they literally cannot afford to move out. It turns them completely against each other in the middle of nowhere.
The timing is clinically insane. Hey, honey, mind handing me that damp twig for the fire? By the way, we are entirely broke and trapped under my mother's roof, indefinitely.
It's just wild.
Sumit used the stress of the environment to trauma bond her to the secret. He dropped it when she was too exhausted to fight back properly.
So, taking all of this profound dysfunction, if we open up our therapist's notebooks, What is the clinical prescription for these couples? Let's start with Cara and Guillermo.
Oh, this will be good.
I genuinely believe they need intensive couples counseling to find a compromise on her career. If the OnlyFans is truly the root issue, they need a safe, mediated space to unpack his internalized shame and her need for financial independence.
Okay, I am taking that prescription and setting it on fire in the woods.
Oh my God.
My prescription is a clean, swift divorce. The resentment is terminal. The foundation isn't cracked, babe. It is powder. He's actively punishing her, and she is begging for crumbs of physical affection. It is a deeply toxic power imbalance. Cut your losses while you still have your youth.
You are merciless. Okay, what about Paula and Russ? I suggest starting small with intimacy exercises. They need to rebuild physical touch without the pressure of performance or the baggage of their arguments. Things like holding hands in silence or prolonged eye gazing to reestablish a baseline connection.
Eye gazing. Pella would roll her eyes so aggressively she would detach her retina. My advice is structural.
Structural.
Yes, Russ needs to engage in intensive individual therapy to figure out why he accepts being treated like a piece of furniture. He needs to grow a spine and set a firm boundary. And Paula needs individual therapy to understand why she plays high school jealousy games to get a rise out of the man she supposedly loves. You cannot do couples therapy when the individuals are this uncalibrated.
Fair enough. You have to fix the individuals before you can fix the team. And what about Jenny and Sumit?
This is a classic clash of fundamental values. Sumit's financial secrecy is a massive betrayal of trust. You do not hide the reality of your solvency from your spouse. It fundamentally alters her ability to consent to her living situation.
But I would argue Jenny also has a massive blind spot. She completely refuses to understand his cultural family obligations in India. She looks at their living situation purely through a Western American lens, where kids leave the house at 18, and that is simply not how his society operates.
That's true.
They don't just need a therapist, they need a cultural mediator to translate their differing worldviews.
I completely agree with that, actually.
Yeah.
The cultural barrier is exacerbating the financial betrayal. So, evaluating all this behavior, who gets the gold star for handling conflict well this week and who gets sent to the timeout corner?
Well, relatively speaking, I am going to give a point to Guillermo. He handled the bar brawl aftermath well by actually stepping up and defending Thaís when no one else would. Yes, the execution was incredibly messy, but his baseline instinct to protect a friend from a xenophobic attack was sound.
I will reluctantly give a point to Cara. When Guillermo rejected her so coldly in the bedroom, she was visibly heartbroken. But she didn't scream, she didn't throw things, she didn't try to manipulate him. She just backed down, regulated her emotions, and accepted the rejection instead of forcing the issue. That takes a massive amount of emotional maturity.
It really does.
But as for the losers,
Oh, we are entirely aligned here. Shekinah needs a massive month-long timeout in isolation. Her verbal attacks, her sheer refusal to take genuine accountability, and her bizarre pivot to a victim mentality are psychologically exhausting to witness.
and Patrick is right there in the timeout corner with her, instigating a fight, cheering on violence for his own amusement, and doing so after historically weaponizing the police against his wife for the same behavior. He is a hypocrite of the highest order.
Truly. So, expanding this to the real world, do we actually think wilderness therapy works for real couples in crisis? I am going to passionately argue yes. I think stripping away the luxuries, confiscating the smartphones, and forcing couples to rely on each other for basic survival, like making a fire, finding clean water, or building a shelter, it strips away all that built-up daily ego.
You think so?
Yes. You can't argue about who left the dishes in the sink when you are trying to prevent hypothermia. It forces a raw, genuine connection. You have to operate as a team or you suffer.
I am heavily logically pushing back on this. Think about the mechanics of resentment. If you already resent your husband for not paying the bills or for being a spineless doormat in social situations, watching him fail to read a map in the freezing rain is not going to endear him to you.
Well,
It is only going to confirm your worst fears about his incompetence and make you hate him more. You aren't fixing the root of the marriage. You're just distracted by the immediate threat of hypothermia.
but what about the power of shared trauma? Surviving something difficult together bonds people.
Shared trauma does not fix a fundamental lack of communication skills. It just gives you an entirely new, traumatic event to yell at each other about on the car ride home. You forgot the wet wipes, Russ, and now I have a rash. No. Politely skip the woods, save your money, and go to a nice, air-conditioned therapist's office where your prefrontal cortex is actually functioning.
We are going to have to agree to disagree on the healing power of the woods. Looking ahead, what are our predictions for what is coming next for these disastrous couples? I will start with my biggest breakthrough prediction.
Let's hear it.
I truly, deeply hope that Jenny and Submit will finally sit by that campfire away from his parents and have an honest, calm conversation about money and what their future actually looks like.
You are always so relentlessly hopeful, my friend. My biggest prediction is significantly darker. I predict Cara and Guillermo will officially legally separate before this retreat even concludes. I think the physical stress of the woods will break the final fragile thread holding them together.
No. I refuse to accept that. Okay, my biggest red flag prediction concerns Sarper. We already saw hints of it during the map reading. I think his deep-seated control issues are going to flare up massively in the woods when he realizes he can't control the elements, and Shekinah is going to blindly defend his toxic behavior even while he's barking orders at her.
Oh, absolutely. He will unravel when he can't micromanage his environment. And for my completely chaotic theory that somehow feels entirely possible, I theorize that Powell is actually going to try to make a physical move on Guillermo.
Wait, what?
Not because she actually desires him, but as a nuclear option to force Russ to finally snap and show some actual volatile emotion in front of the cameras.
Oh my God. If Paola kisses Guillermo just to provoke Russ, the internet will literally break. The psychological warfare of that move, I can't even fathom the chaos.
You would be a masterclass in toxic manipulation. And it would be incredible television. But unfortunately, we have to wait a little bit to see if my dark theories come true.
Yes. Which brings us to the end of today's conversation. Gently reminding the Snark Squad one more time, we are taking a 10-day break. Do not panic. We love you, we appreciate your constant support, and we promise we will return with incredible stories and a full psychological breakdown of whatever happens in those woods.
While we are gone, we want you to hit up the comments and our DMs with two very important questions. Number one, have you ever dropped your phone and somehow gotten incredibly lucky with no cracks? We need to know that miracles exist both in technology and in relationships.
Yes, please share those miracles. And number two, what is your absolute elite top-tier smoothie flavor? Drop the specific recipes because we need to keep this hot girl delusion going strong all summer.
Thank you, everyone, for listening. Please remember to subscribe, leave a 5-star review, and share this podcast, this beautiful mess of a show, rather with another messy babe in your life who loves analyzing human behavior as much as we do.
And before we go, we want to leave you with one final provocative thought to mull over while we're on break. Based on everything we analyzed with the bar brawl today, if your relationship was pushed to the absolute breaking point, would you rather your partner fight for you or fight with the person disrespecting you?
Stay fabulous, stay chaotic, and we'll see you on the Snark side.